I think the mother-in-law or the future mother-in-law.
Yes,
Gotcha.
correct.
I didn't know your name.
Yes, okay. Yeah, they're all up in town.
So. All right, we'll call the meeting to order. Comply with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, Decatur County requested participants in the meeting complete a voluntary anonymous survey that is available at the table in the back of the room. First action is approval of the minutes from September 6, 2023.
I move to approve.
Second.
First and second for approval of the September 6, 2023 minutes. All in favor? Raise your right hand. Yeah, opposed? Carries. Sign.
Chris, I can never be a fan of it.
All right, with that, we'll start with APC petition 2023-16. Bradley Scheidler petitioning to subdivide approximately 3 acres out of 121.766 acres and rezone up to approximately 2.99 acres out of the approximately 3 acres from an A1 zoning classification to an A2 zoning classification for construction of a single-family detached dwelling. The property is owned by Paul and Sherry Scheidler and located at 4475 North Old US Highway 421, Greensburg, and Adams Township. You will take the podium, state your name, and explain your project a little bit.
Hi, I'm Michelle Smothers. They are going to be the house. I don't know what kind of information you need. She left me with the book. Unfortunately, they couldn't be here. They're out of town.
We've got everything in the package. So.
It's on the pasture ground. Is where the property's located.
Going to use the existing driveway.
They're going to
looks
use
like.
an existing driveway. Yes.
So is that going? Seems like squares field.
It's aggressive. Yeah.
Oh, I dropped the
So I
mouse.
think we switched that.
It has changed. And show.
You click on your draw.
Oh, I dropped the mouse and it did something.
Any questions from APC members?
It's all pretty cut and dry.
Not hearing from the APC members. Do we have any adjoining property owners, neighbors, or anybody else would like to state something? Not hearing any, I'll look for a motion.
I make a motion for APC petition 2023-16 for approval.
Second.
Have a first and a second for APC petition 2023-16.
I'll read the votes. Carl Stone, yes. Brian Kennelly, yes. Tom Cherry, yes. Brad Schutte, yes. Todd Mauer, yes. And Sheila Kirkhoff, yes.
That being said, your petition carries. Stay in touch with the ladies at the office and good luck on your bill.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Moving on. Yeah, we'll take this for a month. Moving on to APC petition 2023-17. Paul Stone is petitioning to rezone approximately 1.417 acres out from A1 zoning classification to an R2 zoning classification for business use. The property is owned by Tim and Kim Reynolds LLC and is located behind and east of 935 East Main Street, Greensburg, Indiana, Washington Township. Mr. Stone, you know the process.
What did that say on the, did that say 2 and R2?
No,
Oh.
B2.
Okay, all right, I just make sure. All right,
He didn't have his glasses on.
it's fine.
No, that's what it says, but it should be B2.
Okay, that's
What
fine.
is that on there?
It does say R2 on
Making
here.
sure that's.
The original said
stated
B2.
properly or recorded right.
Yeah, that's what I told my email.
Yeah.
Put your glasses on.
B2.
Mine says R2.
It does say R2.
All right, so B2.
So as you can see, the magenta colored there, parcels, so the two pieces that I'm looking to rezone with the blue stars, our business is located right to the left or to the west of those two. And then we also have a parcel that's a B2 right to the north of the east. So a few things have driven this request. The business, like a lot, have kind of grown and has become congested over the years, but there's also quite a bit of discussion and plans right now with the state to narrow this highway in front of us 9 to 10 feet, right where our business is at. So that's going to change the traffic flow of our customer parking and entrance and exit. So the plan at this point is to change our exit drive to utilize the long parcel there, the one to the west. So that's our plan. And then the one there to the east, the smaller square, is overflow area for just parking equipment. So at this point, no construction planned. I don't foresee really, actually probably if anything, some construction, but we're out of room
So you're gonna tear the house down
that's my plan, yes, sir.
and then that's gonna be your exit.
That's correct.
I got you. And then just an overflow for more equipment.
Yeah, so the one to the east there, as things get bigger and trucks and trailers need places to park. So to be real honest, right now, we are using that for some parking areas. So
Behind the house.
and actually behind the car wash, the existing B2. So
Oh, behind the car.
yeah, so we've owned that parcel for a few years now, and things to be repaired, stuff like that. It's not quite as nice to look at. We try and kind of get out of the way, but so to be real transparent, a little bit of need to zone it to match the use currently. So it's pretty well surrounded. It doesn't show the city zoning because that line to the west of the, yeah, there, that is city county line right there. So, yep. So the parcels to the east there, and I don't know if all of those magenta ones on the north side are, but all of those are non-residential for the most part. Those are all either I2 or a B zone currently. So truly what we're looking to do does match the surrounding parcels.
And then who owns the big B2 and Magenta on to the east?
So that was originally part of Nancy Herbert's old farm. So Joe Hanneman's owned that one, and that, you can't see it, that's cropped off, but that goes to the east all the way to the creek or the county
So
garage.
that's
and
kind of that parcel with Little John.
That's exactly right, yeah.
Okay. That just doesn't look like Little John.
It's not. Little Charles
Oh,
farther to
so
the east.
Little
Right,
Charm's right
that's
here,
the-
yeah.
That's the
That other
chocolate
swan's right
shopper.
here, and then Little Charm's right here.
Yeah, and then you got the, what was that, chocolate shopper, or is that a house?
Yeah, it was a candy shop or something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's big.
It's
it's
not.
farther to the east as
Yeah.
well,
Oh,
so
okay.
there are 3 homes kind of left a little bit in an island right
Are
there.
those still privately owned?
They are, but east of there have been businesses for as long as I can remember.
Okay.
Much needed.
Any other questions from board members? Not hearing any. Do we have any public comments?
Have you talked to those 3 houses? I mean, obviously, I know they got letters and they're
Yeah,
not here.
so, so the one house is the house that I owned up until about 6 months ago, and those people bought that. So I have not spoke with them about this, but what I've been doing is the same plan, so I haven't, have not spoke to them, but the other 2 houses I don't touch, so.
You have city water and sewage out there since you just over the line.
So, no, I believe, Tom, I don't know this for certain, but I think that city sewage stops at the line right there.
So where's the car wash?
Car wash is on it.
You're right, the car wash, you're exactly right, Brad. So it would be, I think that's about the last one
Yeah.
there, which would be another
Yeah,
100
on that, on
feet,
that
but
side of the road, I think.
Yeah.
That would probably.
So like Barnes's building that he got from Martin, that's,
I don't know.
I'm
I
just
just know here's what I can tell you for sure, is it does not go down to the library area.
Right.
It doesn't get that far, so where right there it ends, I don't know for sure.
Because the libraries goes north
Yes,
to
Yeah.
the street behind it.
yeah, so I don't know
So
exactly.
you
where
have
that
those
stops.
city utilities in the farm shop there?
Yes, yeah. And city water, I know a little farther east yet, but I'm not sure where that stops at.
So who owns the one in the middle there?
Which?
The, between the B2 Pink and your Star down?
So,
This one here.
Yeah.
okay, so that is part of, so that's, I'm not sure why it's shaded. Oh, those are easements, that's what it is. So those shades are easements, but that's all one parcel north and
This is
south.
one parcel where Dunnigan used to live.
Oh,
Yes.
yes, okay.
And
John
that-
Billings' old place.
Yep,
I don't
yep,
know
yep.
who's.
do you own that?
I did until about 6 months ago, and Rob Muir was purchasing on contract, and then he has sold it to the people that own it as of a few months this summer.
Okay.
But that was all, not to get off on, that was all part of that big
Yeah.
to that whole bottom. And then we split that off to maintain a couple of acres with that house.
Yeah.
Gary Walter used to own that years ago. but-
Any other questions from the public, from board members? I don't hear any. I'll look for a motion.
I move to vote on ABC petition 2023-17 to rezone to a B2 classification.
I'll second that motion.
First and second for APC petition 2023-17.
Okay, I'll read the votes. Sheila Kirkhoff, yes. Todd Mauer, yes. Brad Shudy, yes. Brian Kennelly, yes. Tom Cherry, yes.
Petition does carry. There, and just stay in touch here, so I'm sure you will. If not, we know where to find you.
You're not really planning on doing it. You're just making it the current use, maybe puts parking lot.
It's surrounded by B and I zoning, so it's,
Needs to be that.
All right, we will move on. APC petition 2023-14 is the Decatur County Stormwater Management Ordinance, the second reading.
You can further technical.
Put them together.
Yeah, because
Along with APC petition 2023-15, Decatur County Stormwater Technical Standards Manual, second reading. First reading was done the month of September, I believe.
yes.
I was on vacation, so I missed it. We didn't have a meeting in October, so this is our second reading.
I spoke with the commissioners several different times between then and now. Went over a lot of the things that we discussed at that meeting, which we talked about different areas that may fall under this. And I emphasize to the commissioners, it's a stormwater ordinance. It has nothing, it's not a drainage ordinance, it's a stormwater ordinance. And that the way that it's written deals with stormwater in an up-to-date fashion that we need. Some of the things that we had discussed at the first reading were the fact that agriculture, some of the large agricultural facilities are currently overlooked, and we would like to take that into consideration as far as, making them do some stormwater management. The trouble that we get into there is we don't know square footage. We can't pull that rabbit out of the hat real quick. And speaking with the commissioners about this, our general consensus is as a stormwater ordinance, this is great. This is what we want. The other things that we talked about, okay, if we do want to do something with a drainage ordinance, or if we want to articulate something, for ponds or the ag side of it, the thought is that we would do that as an addendum later. How do we add those on, Missy?
I mean, you could just do an amendment to
The ordinance,
the ordinance, or you could have them as a separate.
ordinance in themselves, because that was kind of the thought on some of this. Some of these are their own creature. But my thought is we've got a standards manual, we've got a good ordinance that we need, this is going to take care of any development. And we need to go ahead and put this in action and not try to drag it out for 2 years like some things can happen if we try to get into the weeds on some of the fine print. Maybe we address those like as an addendum or as a separate ordinance altogether. The commissioners agreed that was probably the best plan of action with this. So in other words, this isn't something we're going to send to them and get kicked back. I just wanted to make sure that didn't happen, because that's happened to us before. We thought we were on the right track and it got kicked back to us. And I see it's Kerry, right?
Yes.
He is the mastermind or one of the masterminds behind this. So any of the technical questions would be directed towards Kerry, but this is something, I work with this all the time, and this is kind of the standard that everybody's moved to. And you were based off of LTAP, correct? Or that kind of?
The LTAP standard model ordinance and standards, that came from what we had been doing for several years, basically around central Indiana. They adopted a general form of them. So now everybody's taking that, either updating their existing ordinances or starting over new. Greensburg just basically adopted this a couple of months ago. They have, since they're an MS Core, they have a little more to do, especially with stormwater quality than the county does. So your rules don't include any of that kind of stuff. But yours and Greensburg would be very, very similar. And any designer that's worked around central Indiana the last 10, 15 years should be pretty familiar with most of the stuff.
And something that this did add was a permit requirement. Our stormwater ordinance that was written in, I think, 6 or 7.
7, I think, yeah.
It was very thorough as well. Really covered a lot of the similar bases, but there was no permit requirement. So if somebody, like when I did the school projects and I turned in our designs, there was really nothing to do because it didn't require a permit. I didn't actually even have to turn them in. So now we do have that permit requirement. So when somebody tears down a house and puts in a drive, like Paul's gonna do. But that would be one that that's a perfect example. So you're changing your surface, you're going from grass to a hard surface, so then you're going to get caught with this.
Sure.
And
And so what's his requirements?
retention, yeah, to provide retention and properly direct the runoff.
To the creek, that's right here.
Yes, but it has to be retained, or into the natural drainage way that was there.
Slow down some way or another.
But it will take, you're gonna end up with an engineered set of plans. So depending on the square footage that you add. So that is, which our old one was the same way, it's just we never had a way to enforce it. Unless somebody needed to get a building permit, then it could be enforced if so chosen.
And that's based on the square footage of what he's transforming from
Yes.
soft to hard.
Yes.
So that's why, in front of the elementary, that's why the retention pond's there.
Yes.
When we had made the parking lot bigger, they had to retain some of that water instead of just letting it run across.
So if he were under 5,000 square feet or 10,000?
10.
10,000.
I think it's 10, isn't it, Gary?
10 in general and 5,000 for hard surface.
Yeah.
addition.
Yeah, so, and even that can be reviewed. I mean, if it's 11,000, that's something that would go in front of the technical review committee, and if it's 11,000 and it's got grass forever, that's a different story than if it's 11,000 and it's funneling into a neighbor's drain or through another parking lot or something like that.
And this is, so just out of curiosity, this is per parcel, I assume, is that right? Is that how this will work?
How does that work, Gary? Or is it per development?
But yeah, it'd be more per development. We look
Yeah.
at, what's occurring, for the entire project.
Okay.
If you're crossing parcels, but it's one project.
Mhm.
Yes.
Makes sense.
Well, I mean, really, they ought to be going.
Well, here's the example.
I mean, a
Go
parking
off
lot
of-
may be an exception, but anything else you're building.
Yeah, if you're building,
Yeah.
but this would be dealing, and granted, they would already be joined if it was building. But a lot of this is gonna catch the parking lot add-ons.
Like this drive I'm talking about though, Ryan, this drive would potentially be 3 different parcels, and you could easily have a drive that crosses.
No, I get that, but,
That's what I was curious about that.
I mean, in really a general sense though, if it's all utilized for one parcel, I mean, I don't know what the ordinances are, but it really, say you make that the only entrance at some point, and the roads come into the front, you can't get around your building, you put something out there where you can't
Bicycle
get
path.
through,
Out front.
the reason they wanted parcels put together as one is because you could potentially sell your business, keep that land, and there would be no access to the backside of your buildings. Say they built from Kubota to Napa. You put a building in there, and now you've made all this parking on your new spot. You could potentially sell that, but that new owner maybe would look at everything. The reason they want property adjoined is for you not to sell that business and then not to have access to it because you kept the parcel and they didn't catch it.
Sure.
I don't know how that's enforced, but that's a lot of the reason behind it.
So how does this work, like, in the example of, is this 10,000 square feet of change or 10,000 square feet of?
Technically, it's changed, so if you were to, even if it was grass to grass, but you change the flow pattern, then.
I think ironically, this discussion could be very well suited as an example of what we just talked about with mine, like, that will tie in, it's a relatively small parcel, like where that car wash building sits, but almost all of it currently is asphalt. So 10,000 square feet, it almost seems like it's difficult to apply a number to a situation where you could have parcel sizes all the way from a quarter of an acre to 100 acres, right? Like it almost seemed like it would be somewhat tied to parcel size somehow, 10,000
Wow.
square feet.
So basically, you're looking at the permeability and it's just a trip of the trigger. Once you cross that 10,000 square foot threshold, you're actually sheeting more. That's the number that has been
Right.
developed, that you're sheeting that water off faster. That's what this all revolves around, is slowing water off the hard surface.
Sure, and I understand, but let's say that you had a 10,000 square foot, which is not a lot of space on a 100 acre parcel that's flat. You're not gonna change what runs off of that property.
No,
Hardly
but
at all.
you've got to have that number.
But the question I'm trying to ask though is it a number or is it a tiered thing? Is it something that it's 10,000 square feet for anything 5 acres or less? Or is it,
Yeah, I think your problem is that is where it would be subject to review. You can't really tier it because that 10,000 square feet may be detrimental in that 100 acres, depending on where it runs to.
where it happens at?
Yeah,
Right on the front corner or something.
and it's running into a 6-inch culvert,
You
that's.
helped me with my point though, a flat number, like let's say that's 10,000 square feet, you got a quarter acre. Let's say that you change the runoff 8,000 square feet on a quarter acre parcel, that can have a really big effect on your neighbor, but we just don't care because it's under 10.
Yeah.
Right? But it could be 50,000 square feet of coverage by the time you put in a long road and a big quad and things like that, that it may not end up changing it if it's not close enough to a line or something like that. Honestly, I think that probably overall for simplicity, it probably does make sense to have just a number, but it might not catch a lot of situations, especially on smaller parcels that where your neighbors are tight.
We gotta remember, this is not for residential. So.
Doesn't, like, my property right there where that car wash is at isn't residential at all.
No, I'm saying, in other words, typically, that's where that 10,000, it catches a lot of them. Unless somebody's just adding a little width to a drive, then it doesn't. And that's where you gotta kind of have that number, because if somebody paves and goes another 2 feet wide, well, that doesn't really trip it as much. And it can get, you're getting into the technicalities. There's no doubt that it can affect things. So, but that's been the standard. Every town that I work in, it seems like that 10,000 square foot's the magic number.
Yeah, it has been for years now.
Yeah. But that's in, you start talking about your ag side or your larger parcels, that's where I think you would want to possibly do a tier.
Mm-hmm.
And to have a better understanding of, okay, you've got a quad in the middle of 400 acres. That's not, with nothing but flat.
Sure.
runoff,
Yeah.
That's not as big a deal,
Right.
because we're not affecting that runoff.
It's not gonna get to the property line to change
And even
anything.
it'll be in the ground before it makes
Yeah.
it. So that would be where you tier.
Yeah.
Or that, because maybe that's a better approach for the applicant. Because we struggled in our conversation last time. Where do you have that number?
I think that's my thing, is it's just so difficult to apply a number to so many situations,
Well, for this ordinance, the number works because this is for commercial development, essentially. That's what this deals with. And the 10,000 seems to catch that pretty
easily.
But if we look at the other things like we discussed, large residential facilities or the ag side, that's where you would almost want it to either be tiered or just ultimately reviewed case by case.
I think it makes sense to put some thought into that.
But that's where, on the flip side, I would like to see this go through and be in place. And then if we dealt, we could do an amendment to it for an ag base. Or then if you wanted to do something with ponds, that would probably be a whole nother ordinance altogether. Just my thoughts. And that was kind of the feedback that I got from the commissioners as well. That, we've put a lot of money and time into this. Let's get this working.
Sure.
Then if we do need other changes to be made, we can do that. I don't know what everybody's thoughts are on trying to go ahead and vote on this with small board, but
We had some good discussion about this. I think that's a little bit drinking from the fire hose to try and review all the information that was in that email, especially if you're not in the drainage world, that, it'd be a little bit tough to swallow.
Yeah, I was gonna say, but
Yeah. You gave me, basically what I wanted to know is kind of what was changing, and how we compare to surrounding counties, just from a benchmarking standpoint. And summary, I feel like one of the things that was changing was the permitting process for anything over 10,000 square feet. But if there's anything specific, this gentleman seems like he's the doctor on this, so if there's anything you'd advise us that we look closer at, or anything that.
they pretty much covered it.
Yes.
Yeah, we've been through it, and Christine and Andy have been looking at it also.
The acronym that you shared was LTAP, was that right? That is,
What is it?
Local Technical
Technical
Assistance
Assistance
Program out of Purdue.
okay. Now in surrounding counties, does that get into agricultural zoned? How, does LTAP have any umbrella over top of that, or is this mostly related to commercial construction, or?
Well, LTAP mostly helps counties, municipalities with kind of their public works.
Okay.
So a lot of it is street, road, bridges, culverts, this stormwater drainage.
A lot with it.
So, they work a lot with city and county engineers.
Yeah.
That's really where that group is focused at, so.
Yeah, that's their world.
Yeah.
Really is the city drainage.
Yeah.
And utilities.
Sure.
Nothing hardly at all on the agriculture stuff.
Right, yes, correct.
No, that's a whole different
Yeah.
critter.
I mean, it makes sense after you understand it, but to someone that hasn't, like, my first impression of when you hear the word stormwater and you hear about neighbors upset with each other about a field that floods, it would seem like it's somewhat related, so it's a little bit difficult at the surface
Actually,
level to
right.
differentiate
Yeah,
stormwater from not having anything to do with a flood.
a
flooding.
drainage problem.
Right.
And that's what I emphasized and thoroughly explained to the commissioners, because there were two here at the technical meeting that we had, because you guys zoomed in on that, if I remember right.
Yes, right.
So we were very clear with that this is a stormwater manual.
Yeah.
That deals with development and handling the flow of water off of developments. And that is totally.
Changing surfaces maybe
Yes,
is,
yes.
yeah.
That isn't necessarily, that is totally separate from true drainage.
Fields.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. And they do understand that.
Sure.
So I don't know what everybody's feelings are there.
So if I want to put in a driveway, extend one of my driveways out to the other end of the farm, do I have to get a permit on that?
No, you're residential.
It's only
Farmer,
commercial.
huh?
Yeah, this is only for commercial.
Well, why didn't read that just for commercial? When they get to commercial, next thing they gotta go through this instead.
Yeah, that's what it says.
our discussion was,
Yes.
we are gonna talk about and maybe make a new ordinance. Add an ordinance to it or amend what's there to apply to agriculture, but they haven't got all the details figured out.
Yeah, right now, ag is exempt, residential is exempt from this. This is strictly for commercial development.
So if you want to build a business and make a blacktop parking lot, where that rainwater is going to go, this is kind of the
That's what.
ordinance that tells you what you've got to do to take care of it.
Well, I just somehow.
It's got nothing to do with the
Big
personal
area.
property or.
If it was a big area and you put in a big commercial building, you would take that up at that time anyhow.
Well,
This is
we
the-
had no way to enforce
So I
it. This
realize you got a
allows
way of
us.
enforcing it, but you can't enforce a lot of ordinances.
This is that standard. This is what they
Yeah,
look to
yeah.
design their retention and the flow control. That's what it's in place for. And it's been there. I mean, it's been utilized. They used it in NEPRO. They didn't use this one. They used our existing one. But it's been used.
What's the difference between this one and the old one? What's the updated?
Updated for the amount that is retained, and I believe you guys updated your flows, like your 100-year rainfalls. So there's a lot of calculation that goes into this. How much has to be retained for 24 hours after a rainfall
That
event?
wasn't in the old one.
Well, it's updated. It was in the old one, but all of the calculations, all the rainfall amounts have been updated.
We get heavier rains, our climate's changed, right? That's the reason it's been updated, is that correct?
Some of it, and also it's just to align with LTAP's basic, you need to store this much for this long.
But I mean, our rains.
Yeah, but we're talking hundreds of years of data, so it's gonna take a minute for it to change the averages a lot.
So is it fair to say that as LTAP continues to refine, we are bringing in the most up-to-date LTAP standards, I guess, is a fair thing. So
Yes.
as LTAP continues to refine, we're adopting that.
So the idea would be that, there's an ordinance, there's a standards document. Hope moving forward, the ordinance is kind of the legal, this is what you have to do, and this covers this. And the standards is more of the nuts and bolts.
Sure.
When a surveyor or an engineer is designing a site, they're gonna go to those standards, not the ordinance.
Right.
So, we would envision commissioners or drainage board or somebody to be kind of a separate keeper of that standard document, so that if something does change, a few years down the road, you can make an easy change to it. It's like, here's a new page, 42, put that
That's
in,
what
take
I'm
that
saying.
out. So you don't have to go through
An ordinance change.
an ordinance change every time something technical changes.
Sure.
And our original was one document.
Okay.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
Right. So, they're coming up with new pipe materials all the time.
Yeah.
We may want to update that part in chapter 4. And there you go.
And the ordinance would have to change if we now start allowing a certain part of that component from that standards manual.
Right.
Makes sense, I think I understand. I think that this is probably a relatively small piece of the pie of what because we're so based around agriculture around here, I think that we're gonna have our work cut out for us when we start refining that, but this is probably a small sliver from a county-wide standpoint as opposed to a city. The city would probably struggle a lot more with this piece, where we're gonna struggle a lot more with the agricultural drainage part.
Yep, exactly. I mean, in all honesty, this does not, we're not gonna wear this out.
Yeah.
Because we don't have a lot of commercial development within the county.
Yeah.
But it's been needed.
Sure.
So we think,
Questions from the board?
do you think we should vote on
We got 6 here, we got 5 yeses, right?
it? Yeah.
Debbie, has the office heard from the public much from a concern standpoint on this?
Not to my knowledge. I've not heard anything.
I think from a benchmarking standpoint, I mean, not that to use all the surrounding counties are doing the right thing, but if we're coming on board with what the majority is doing, it would seem like the right move. So I don't think we're taking a real odd stand here on doing something abnormal. It doesn't seem, I don't have a discomfort with it, so.
I'll look for a motion on APC petition 2023-14 and 15.
I still move.
I have 2 different voting sheets.
I second.
So you want to do them one at a time, or?
No,
Oh.
I mean, we'll vote, we'll tally the vote one at a time.
Can I ask you guys a question before you vote?
Mhm.
I know you already called for it, but so if Decatur County ever wants to go to what they call the regulated drains and legal drains, that would come through this ordinance? Or is that a
Absolutely not.
brand new
Has
ordinance?
nothing to do with this whatsoever.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That can't be amended, this can't be amended to, or
No.
added to
No.
do anything like that.
We wouldn't. I mean, that's a
Well, I'm
whole,
saying
that's a
that's-
whole nother animal. That is what
Slightly different.
I have
ordinance.
emphasized to the commissioners. This is a stormwater and
Right.
not, you're talking drainage.
Right.
You're talking
Yeah.
drainage board, or that's a whole different animal. And I wanted to make sure they understood that before we send it to them, and they think that they're taking care of any sort of a drainage conflict. It's
Right.
not.
But you can add agriculture to this.
We plan
You
to
can
add.
add agriculture to.
Well, you
this
could add-
To the point where I have to come get a permit in order to tie my field tile into the ditch?
No.
Or is that
No,
completely different?
no, that's drainage.
That's
You're back to
drainage.
drainage, yep.
Okay.
Yeah, this is handling runoff from hard surface, basically.
Basically, if you were gonna put an asphalt driveway out there that's over 10,000 square feet in an ag area. then-
Well, and actually, that's the number problem is 10,000 isn't nothing for ag.
Right now.
Right, but where he's saying
We're
if
gonna
we
work
do
towards it.
something towards ag is to figure out what is that number. You know, it'd have to be a lot bigger than 10,000 square feet. Personally, I mean, that's my opinion.
I noticed a lot of solar in this ordinance.
No,
No,
none of those.
It's in the technical.
It is.
It's in-
well,
it's a
the,
chapter.
So what I'm saying is, most of them are gonna be business, right?
right.
So they won't have to do anything with this.
Well, and that's been,
Because most of them are gonna be business.
right, and the solar doesn't change your hard surface because it's all grass underneath.
You still got to,
Right, it's just got a lot of
Vulnerability to the ground.
stipulations on height and width and for drainage, or runoff
For runoff. Well,
in the solar part of your tank.
Yeah.
But that won't have anything to do with the solar companies, though, because they're not gonna be business, is that correct?
No,
So
that's,
they won't.
no,
they would have to adhere to, first of all, a solar farm would have to have a drainage plan that would be stamped and.
and that's part of our solar ordinance. That there would be the full plan, there would be a full SWIFT plan for all runoff and stormwater runoff. That's part of our solar ordinance, so that is automatic, which then they refer back to this. So any hard surface area that they put in, say they do put in a drive or a small building or whatever, that would fall under this.
There was a lot in the technical about the width and height and everything, and area,
Yeah,
how much grassland between them,
yeah,
and that was in this thing.
yes.
Well, you guys have all read it, right? Obviously.
It hurts.
I mean, if you're voting, if you're gonna vote on this, surely you've looked through it. It's quite extensive, right?
Yeah, and there's, like I said, there's stuff in there that is a lot of numbers for me that, I'll be honest, is over my head. But it is used in almost every city and county, that LTAP, right?
Yeah.
And as you said, if you go to a design professional with or without it, a design professional is gonna design to these standards, correct? We just never had a way to enforce it without these ordinances, correct?
Yes and no, we didn't have the permit requirement. It was an ordinance and it was required to be done,
But
but we
if you were
didn't
just doing. a
they
parking lot,
never-
you didn't need it.
ever made a permit requirement on that ordinance for whatever reason.
I got you. And this, it has
Yes.
a permit requirement.
What is your concern with it?
With this whole,
Yes, sir.
the change in the ordinance?
Yes, sir.
Well, I was afraid that it was just a gateway, number one, to illegal drilling. Yeah. Regulated drillings.
I
That
got
was my largest fear.
Yeah.
This is just the beginning of a conglomerate.
you. Yeah, think of this as a change of use of the permeability of the ground. So don't think of drain tiles, don't think of regulated drains. That's what we would get into with a drainage ordinance and potentially board, but there's a lot of discussion to be had. But if you're gonna go put in a parking lot or things like that, that's what this is here to address.
There's a need.
There is, yes, sir.
If somebody give me, you would know more than anyone, so maybe just give me 3 examples of a need
For,
of a permit.
This
Or-
right
Or
here,
changing it ordinance.
Brought all this on.
basically catching us up to date in the fact that any hard surface changes, there's been several hard surface changes made to businesses that, yes.
Let's say you put in,
And we didn't have this permit requirement to say, you should have got this permit before you shed all that water off.
How many times did that happen? How many times have you run into that?
About a half dozen,
Last year and last.
5 years.
Half dozen times in 5 years?
Mhm. Yeah, and they're ongoing. So,
let's say that there was a business that opened up next to you, they were able to get their property rezoned, they put in a big asphalt parking lot, did not have to get a permit, and all of that water, every time it would rain hard, would run right onto you. That's what this is here to address.
Instead of flooding your property, because before the grass absorbed it, the soil, now it's running on you. Without this, we don't have any way to enforce it.
Well, we've had that problem, but water wasn't a problem, but that's a whole different story right there. When you said we've had this ordinance, and now it's enforceable with this, is that what you just said?
it requires a permit.
Enforceable.
It requires a permit to do that type of work.
So before without a permit, basically.
You can do it.
Yeah,
They
like
didn't
when I
have to
did
come turn the draw.
when I did
They
the
didn't want
work-
to, they just,
at the schools, and I turned in my drawings, they didn't know really, I mean, they can review the drawings, but I didn't have to do that. We went ahead and did it, I mean, and put the retention in and all of that, but without that, I didn't have to. I could have just went and done it and shed the water and let it run. So that's where the big difference is on this one.
now if they don't bring the plans in, they don't get the permit.
Yeah. And if somebody does that work, then you can go to them. You needed the permit, now you have to design it properly so that you're not thrashing all this water.
But when you did yours at the school, it was designed that way, and that's just the way you turned it in?
Yeah, we designed it,
It's the way it was engineered.
we used the
correct?
standard, we used the county standard.
Right.
And I had Stranded Associates in Columbus do the design of it. And they based it off of the county standard, the one that, because I think you guys did the one in 07, didn't you?
We did not.
You guys did?
Somebody locally did.
Oh, that is right, yeah. So we used that standard to design it, and I went and submitted the plans, but I didn't have to.
If everybody would do it like Brad in that situation, this ordinance wouldn't be
Wouldn't be
necessary,
necessary.
but unfortunately, as you guys know, people a lot of times build and then ask for forgiveness later, and at that point, there's already a parking lot in, the water's already running into somebody's basement, those problems already occurring, so. Granted, it might not be a high volume, but I can tell you, if you were the neighbor downstream from that, you would appreciate this.
There would be quite possibly a way that if because before, if you were building a building and got a building permit, you would go through this process. But if you knew you had issues and you went in and put the parking lot all in first and then run it off on somebody else, then you go and get the building permit. They really can't enforce parking, change the parking lot that's already there. And this gives them a way to, I think that's a sign that I would see could happen.
That is correct.
All right, we got a first and a second to vote on APC 2023-14 and 2023-15.
You technically have a individual voting sheet.
You thought you did?
No, I think the population voting sheet, but
Oh.
this wasn't. So there's two on there. The top one is the ordinance and the bottom one is the standards.
So your discussion gave her time to make these up.
Okay, we'll read the votes. Paul Stone, yes, on the ordinance. Brad Shudy, yes. Brian Kennelly, yes. Tom Cherry, yes. Todd Mauer, yes. And Sheila Kirkhoff, yes. For 15, the standards. Sheila Kirkhoff, yes. Todd Mauer, yes. Tom Cherry, yes. Brian Kennelly, yes. Brad Smith, yes. Brad Shudy, Smith Jones. And Paul Stone, yes.
So both do carry, so at this point, it will be forwarded to the commissioners. If you got any concerns, the commissioners are the final vote on it. It's just our recommendation that we as a board. So,
I think you're right. I mean, your concerns are really valid with the drainage things. I mean, I think we've got our work cut out for us to find things that work for everybody, right? I mean,
Yes, and that's what I made clear to them, that this is not a drainage ordinance, it's a stormwater ordinance. That it has nothing to do with any of those issues. I wanted to make sure they understood that that's not their golden solution to any of those problems. That is not it at all, and they understand that. Because that's a much more complicated situation.
Well, that's why I thought they were going to can of worms.
No.
It's way out.
I think honestly, if you've got
We
some,
can't afford it, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
if you've got some strong thoughts on farm drainage, I think that this board is open to hearing, anything, because right now I think we've got directions being pulled from, we've got the groups like the Farm Bureau that would like, very conservative things supporting agriculture, and we've got, very conservative, conservationists pulling it the other way. So I think we've got to work that out for us on how we handle a lot of those things, and we want to hear it from everybody. And I alluded to this a couple meetings ago, that I think we need a form to fill out if you've got strong opinions about whether an ordinance is wrong, an ordinance needs updated, if we're creating a new ordinance, how that should be drafted. So by all means, put it in writing, and we'd like to hear it.
Or where to go with an ordinance, how to address it, because if the issues are there, they're hard to solve.
Yeah, I mean, we don't see them. That's why I'm wondering
Oh, yeah,
what the cost,
they're there.
the need, where is it? And that's why I was way out. A lot of the stuff we don't see, half the people out here don't see.
Oh, yeah. You
So
are
it's
very
good to
correct.
at least have, some information about
Well, there's been several of these meetings that, with valid complaints, but we don't have a way to deal with them.
with that being said, it brings me to the end of the agenda. For a motion to adjourn.
So move.
All in favor?
All right.